So, hello everyone. Today we're gonna be talking with Jennifer CHUJOR about intersectionality. And before starting, I would like for you to introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer CHUJOR. I am a black female, I am 20 years old and I come from London.
Okay, awesome. So, I want to start with a very simple question. What does intersectionality means to you?
Okay, so to me, as like a like a word in a dictionary, it just kind of means like understanding that there's more than one section that someone can go into, more than one category, and looking at something as more like a holistic picture. And in relation to that, gender, race, sexuality, and everything like that, I'd say it means like not understanding that one person is not defined by one certain group or demographic, and that they can fit into different things, which can be quite detrimental to their belonging. A lot of times, intersectionality, when it's overlooked, people can feel that they don't belong anywhere. For example, like within the black community and the LGBT community, for example, for a young black gay man, he may not feel that he truly belongs in the black community because of him being gay, and he may not feel like he really truly belongs in the LGBT community either because he's black. So he just feels like he doesn't belong anywhere. So I feel like that is what intersectionality is, just realizing that, you know, there's different kinds of people in every section.
And if you had to say, how do you think that intersectionality relates or does not relate to the Black Lives Matter movement?
I'd say it relates because there's this thing that people say that all Black Lives Matter, which kind of means that it's not just black men, straight black men and straight black women that matter. It's all kinds of black people that matter. That's regardless of like your sexuality, even if you're like disabled, anything. I feel like that has come up because within like the black community, there's like quite a lot of like hostility towards the LGBT community, which is why intersectionality is important, because they don't feel like they belong in the black community. So when it comes to Black Lives Matter, they don't really feel like they are wanted in the movement.
I was going to ask you actually a different view that we have not talked before.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you about how do you think the Black Lives Matter movement has been impacted by social media? I
feel like social media has brought light to the intersectionality, which is why I said earlier that the all Black Lives Matter movement is necessary, because there's been put more of an emphasis on the fact that like there's a lot of, for example, trans black women, they receive a lot of like even like what's the word, violence. They've experienced violence, some of them have even been killed, and I feel like social media brings light to that, because in the general media you just see like, oh, racist attacks from the police towards black men, but they don't really show that the other parts of it and the way that it affects every single person in the community. So I feel like social media has a role to play in a beneficial way. On the other hand, from my personal viewings, I feel like I've also seen the flip side of that situation, where I've seen a lot of like straight black men, they've kind of been like, it seems like demonized in a way that they I don't really know how to explain it, but I feel like because obviously we have patriarchy and we have then you have the Black Lives Matter movement, there's been like a shift where like the black man has been like hated. That's what I've noticed on social media, where they are not really wanted. But yeah, I don't really know. It's a bit complicated, really.
Actually, I've heard you like along this couple of minutes that you've been very careful between talking about female and male. So I wanted to ask you, how do you think gender plays a role in the Black Lives Matter movement?
I would say that I don't really, from my perspective, I'm not sure because I don't have like the holistic view. But from my perspective, I don't really feel like it has a big role to play in the movement.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my female friends, like they've gone out to like all the protests in London and stuff. They've been like pioneering the movement, so I don't feel like it has anything like negative. I don't feel like it has a negative effect on women.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say perhaps not on social media, but in the news kind of thing, it's always shown that the black men are being killed by the police, but there's also women that are also like subject to this violence, which is not really communicated on the mainstream media. But social media has brought light to that. Also, women have also been like killed and like abused by the police as well. I'd say that's like the only thing, but I feel like as a movement in general, I don't really feel like women, me speaking as a black woman, I don't feel discriminated against, or that I can't be part of the movement. I don't really feel that way. I don't feel like I can't go to a protest and protest because I'm a woman. I don't really feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Where do you get most of your information from regarding the movement?
Twitter. I get it all from Twitter, Instagram, little bit on Snapchat. On the news, I do watch the news, but I'm quite skeptical when it comes to the news because I feel like they kind of show what they want you to see,
mm-hmm.
and it's not always like what's really going on. Like for example, like all the riots and stuff that were happening with the Black Lives Matter, people were showing like live footage of the things that were actually going on, and they would be like, guys, don't go to this place, the police are shooting guns or whatever. So it's kind of more real. Well, it feels more real. I'm not sure, but that's where I get most of my information from.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly Twitter.
Well, we are in the realm of comparing
mm-hmm.
traditional media like broadcasters or Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you think you see more intersectionality? Where do you think it's more present?
I definitely think on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. People are more on Twitter or social media. You everyone has like a platform. If you have a phone, I can literally post a picture of myself. People that can relate to me will like it. Women can like it. Black women can like it. Men can like it, kind of thing. And I feel like it's giving people opportunity. They can be like, I'm a trans woman and I'm proud. And then when you have like, because with social media, it has its good points and its bad points, but I feel like it does come down to validation. So say for me, say I'm like a black trans woman, I can go on Twitter and be like, oh, I'm a black trans woman and I'm proud. If I get 100 likes, I can understand that 100 people kind of support me, and that makes me feel more like accepted,
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, in terms of like looking for validation from other people. You should be able to get that from yourself. Well, I say you should be able to, but obviously in a world where like people face a lot of discrimination, like in terms of being part of like the black community and the LGBT community, like being a woman as well, like all those kind of things, it's hard to like be validated by yourself. But when you go on Twitter and you've got like 100,000 likes and you're seeing that like you're being supported, it definitely just like it kind of makes you feel like you are seen and you are like you're not alone, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it does play a big role. And on the news, it's not really, I don't really see it, mainstream media, I don't really see a lot of intersectionality, but I don't really see a lot of diversity in general anyway. I feel like intersectionality is like a step after diversity. Mm-hmm. Once you get into like, so for example, say you have like a news team and like there's 5 of them and there's four white like news presenters and there's 1 person of colour. That's the diversity kind of thing. But say you have 4 people of colour, at that point then you can go into like the intersections and say, oh, this one is like a gay black woman, this is a straight black man, this is a gay Asian woman. Then you have like different intersections, but I feel like that comes after diversity.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with mainstream media, they haven't really reached that diversity mark.
Do you ever think that there's some part of that intersectionality that is not being represented? And if so, which part would you say it is?
I'd say from me looking at the movement, I'd say because it's like mainly based on America, the whole like diaspora of like black people it is represented. For example, I'm from London, so I feel like the Black Lives Matter movement in London was created by us in London. I don't really feel like it was kind of like supported by like the African American community, and I feel like in terms of like intersectionality, like the actual like black people that come from like Africa, black people that come from like the Caribbean and other places like South America, whatever, I don't feel like they are as like represented also in the black community. They're not really like seen, especially in America. So I feel like maybe that's not really something that is addressed. But I feel like when it comes down to the dynamics of like the institutionalized racism in America, those kind of people that aren't like African Americans and they actually know where they come from, because of like the dynamics of the way it is, they aren't as subject to police brutality in terms of like, for example, when it comes to police brutality, the reason why black people are able to be killed in America is because they don't really have a place to call home. For example, if I was in America and something happened to me in terms of police brutality, the UK government would step in, kind of thing. So if I'm in America, I'm a bit less scared because there's just less chance of something like that happening to me. But in America, there's no government that's gonna like kind of back them. They don't have anything to be scared of.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I see the reason why they're not as like not welcomed, but as like highlighted in the whole like Black Lives Matter movement and the intersectionality. But at the same time, I feel like they are still part of the community and their voices should be heard.
And finally, I wanted to ask you, how would you assess or hope the future link between intersectionality and the Black Lives Matter movement will play out?
Honestly, for me personally speaking, I can't speak for like everyone, but I would like to think that the intersectionality goes beyond the Black Lives Matter movement, because when it comes down to it, for me personally, it's something that's negative, like police brutality and institutionalized racism and all that kind of stuff is not something that I personally like to like dwell on all the time, and like it's quite heavy, negative. I feel like the conversation that have been started should carry on without having to bring it back to negative causes. They should just be had anyway. People's voices should be heard without someone having to be killed first for us to start talking about these kind of things. I feel like they should just be had in general. So I would like to hope that intersectionality can move beyond Black Lives Matter and they can kind of just separate, and we can kind of like move forward with like accepting all kinds of people, not just in the black community, but just like in general, just accepting people for who they are. I feel like intersectionality is a problem because people are put in sections in the first place. So when you find yourself in contrasting sections, it's just like, oh, like, where do I belong? But everyone is themselves. There's no need for sections. Like, I'm Jennifer. The fact that I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm from London, it doesn't define me. I'm just me, and everyone is just them. So I feel like we should just move away from the whole section thing in general. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you very much for taking the time to respond to the questions.
Thank you for having me.
So I would like to extend the biggest thank you to Jennifer CHUJOR for giving us her insight on Black Lives Matter movement and how it relates to intersectionality. Thank you very much for listening to this short podcast. And don't forget to browse through our posts. We have incredible content from great authors. And that would be all. Thank you very much and have a good day.